my name's Tony, and today I'm here to tell you about this book I read called Highly Illogical Behavior by John Corey Whaley. So this book is pretty much about an 18-year-old boy, and his name is Solomon, and he has agoraphobia. So when he was in junior high school, he was in front of the water fountain at his school, and he ended up having a panic attack. So after this panic attack, he was really embarrassed, and he didn't want to go back to school because he didn't want to see he didn't want his classmates to see him like this. So he decides to stay at home and get homeschooled. So when this book starts out, it's his senior year, he's about to graduate, and he has not left his house in 3 whole years. He has not stepped 1 foot out of his house. He stays indoors all the time. But he is perfectly okay with this. He's happy, and he doesn't even want to go outside, nor does he see himself going outside in his whole lifetime. So there's also another girl in this book named Lisa Prater. And Lisa is a senior at Upland High School, the school that Solomon would have gone to if he didn't decide to get homeschooled. So Lisa wants to be a psychologist when she gets older. So in order to get into college, she has to write an essay about her experience with mental illness. So she wants to go to Solomon's house and urge him to go outside, and then record her experiences and put this in her college essay. So she ends up meeting Solomon, and they develop a strong friendship. She goes to his house almost every single day after school. She even pulls her boyfriend Clark into this, and they become a really tight trio. But their relationship is threatened because there's a web of lies in between them. Solomon does not know Lisa's true intentions with ever coming to his house in the first place. Lisa truly loves Solomon now, and they have a great friendship. But Solomon doesn't know that her intentions with ever coming to his house was not even pure. And Clark knows that Lisa wanted to come meet Solomon so she could write her college essay. But he can't tell Solomon because he's dating Lisa. So overall, I would rate this book a 5 stars because it addresses an illness that is in our world today, agoraphobia. So readers can see what it's like to live with this typical and specific mental illness. So the New York Times actually reviewed this book, and they said, "Yet even with that intrinsic predictability, it's the way the story gets there and how the characters handle the aftermath that makes the book so electrifying." And I completely agree with this review, because in the beginning of the book, you pretty much know that it's going to be about Lisa getting Solomon out of the house, and this is revealed in the very first few pages. But it's actually truly shocking, the path that Lisa takes to get there, and what each and every single one of the characters do. It was typically and very shocking to me when I found out that Solomon was actually gay and that he had feelings for Lisa's boyfriend. And this was really shocking for me because it created tension between Lisa, Solomon, and Clark. And it was also shocking for me when Solomon was actually forced out of the house because his grandmother got hurt. I thought that he would choose to go out of the house after Lisa counseling him and helping him and building him stronger. But in the end, he was actually forced to leave. So, John Corey Whaley actually uses a lot of similes in this book. He uses similes to describe Solomon the most, but also the other characters in the novel. For example, he states, "She and he both ate like pre-hibernation polar bears." So this really helps to describe Solomon and Lisa, and they were just eating. They were shoveling food in their mouths and eating very quickly. And you can perfectly see how they're consuming their food, just as if a bear was about to eat his food before he were to go into hibernation. So he's eating it very quickly and fast and shoveling it all into his mouth. So I was actually very lucky to get in touch with John Corey Whaley. I DM'd him on Twitter, and he actually responded to my messages. So this is our little chat. So I asked him a few questions, and he actually responded to me. So I'm going to read you all of my questions and his responses. So first of all, I said, "Where did you get your inspiration for writing this book?" And he said, "I have severe panic disorder, and I needed to write about that. That's where the idea came from. Then I thought I'd explore 2 illnesses, anxiety and agoraphobia." And this story happened. So John Corey Whaley actually experienced this in his real life. So this book is pretty much based off of him and the experiences that he faced in his own life. So my second question was, "What did you edit out of this book?" And he said, "Originally, Clark told a third of the story. I took that out in the rewrite." So in the published version of Highly Illogical Behavior, Lisa and Solomon say parts of the book from their perspective. So Whaley used to have a part in it about Clark saying stuff from his perspective, but he ended up cutting this out before it was published. So my third question was, how long did it take you to write this book? And Whaley said about 9 months. My fourth question was, what was the most difficult part of writing this book? And to answer this, Whaley said, getting started, which is usually hardest for me. I take a while to find a novel's voice. So not only did Whaley tell me what the hardest part of writing highly illogical behavior was, but he said what the hardest part of writing every single book that he writes is. So this is really insightful. My fifth question that I asked was, did you have any goals for this book when you started writing it? So Whaley said, I wanted to say something about how we all have so many misperceptions of mental illness. And this is clearly portrayed through his book because Lisa's best friend in the beginning of the novel views Solomon as a loser and a weirdo because he had a panic attack in the beginning of the year during junior high. And author John Corey Whaley proves that Lisa's best friend is clearly wrong about Solomon because he shows his true and real personality through his interactions with Lisa and Clark. My sixth question was, how did you get interested in writing this genre? And Whaley said, I've always been fascinated with the transition phase of adolescence in writing. About teens seems important and vital. So this is very, very insightful to the style of John Corey Whaley, and this explains why most of his books are written about teenagers. My seventh question was, are you working on anything new now? And he said yes, but it is a secret, so he couldn't tell me what the name of the book was. My final question was, what kind of research did you do to write this book? And Whaley said, I read a lot of personal stories of people who suffer anxiety and agoraphobia. I also researched mental illness from other points of view. So this just shows how well researched Whaley was on this topic and how actually true it is and how it can relate to people who actually suffer from anxiety and agoraphobia. So I highly suggest that you read this book called Highly Illogical Behavior by John Corey Whaley.